welcome back to Comedy or Worse. I'm here with a very special guest.
Lukas Fox, thanks for having me.
Yes, yay. So do you use a stage name?
Yes, that is Lukas Fox.
There we go. That solves that.
Got a good ring to it, don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. So how did you get into comedy?
Well, I guess when I was a kid, I was just always the funny guy. Just kind of stuck naturally, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did my first open mic August 23. Seemed to work out fine, so I just stuck with it ever since.
Cool. So did you get addicted to it right away, or?
Oh yeah, I've always enjoyed writing and things like that. Yeah, I just really love getting a reaction out of people too.
Yeah.
I don't even care if it's a bad one. I just think it's the best thing.
Oh yeah, sweet. So what is your writing process for comedy?
Well, usually I put myself in really bad situations on purpose, or I just hear other people tell me about theirs, and I usually kind of grab something from that.
Okay.
Typically, if something just comes to mind, like I'm having a talk with someone and just a bit comes out of it, I just put it in my notes on my phone.
Nice.
Other times, if I have a little notepad or notebook, I usually just write a few words together and kind of find a way to spin those together. Or I might write down a few prompts with limitations, such as my or I statements.
Yeah. Cool. Nice. So, do you wish you started comedy earlier, or do you feel like you started a good time?
I think if I would have started about 6 months earlier, that probably would have been good. I didn't really have a lot going on, and would have been a pretty good use of my time, I'd say. Just spent that time just walking around downtown eating burritos.
Yeah.
I was in San Diego for about 8 months before I started, so I think any time you jump on is a good time. It's like they say when you start anything.
Yeah. All right. Cool. So who's the funniest person in your life right now?
That I know personally, or well, that's a hard one. That I know personally.
Or someone you used to know, or
Well, would you say a favorite comedian of all time if I've never met them, or is that a separate question?
yeah, that's fine. You don't have to answer. Who's your favorite comedian?
Well, if I were to say my favorite comedian of all time, in that case, it would be Norm Macdonald.
Okay.
And I'd say it's not based on his success or anything like that. It's just because he did things because he thought they were funny.
Yeah.
And you could tell it was always an attitude thing with him. I can't really say anyone local, only because just because we're all friends and we hear each other's jokes so much that some of them, kind of lose their factor when you hear them a lot.
Yeah.
Regardless, I don't have an unkind word for anyone who does any mics around here. Everyone's fantastic. And also, I don't want people to know how much I like and admire them, I want to kind of keep my cool.
So, alright, that's fine. I get it. Cool. Let's see. So, have you traveled to do comedy yet?
I lived in Japan for about a year, and I did a mic at a bar there once. I don't think anyone knew what I was saying, though.
Oh, no.
I mean, they understand English, but I have a feeling that they didn't understand my sarcastic tone.
Sure.
Of course, there were a few other Americans there, but I don't think they really wanted to hear what I was talking about.
Right. Yeah, that's interesting. So do you have a hobby or passion that isn't related to comedy?
Oh yeah, I really like to cook. When I was a kid, my mom never cooked. It was always my sisters who took care of that, and it always very cheap, simple things. So once I kind of got my own kitchen when I moved into my apartment here, I kind of dove right into it. I think it's a really good way to kind of do kind of a thoughtless task, at least if it's a recipe you're familiar with.
Sure.
And I think when you kind of do meditative tasks like that, it kind of helps you zone in on bits when they come later.
Yeah, cool. So, what's your favorite place to do comedy right now?
Well, it depends what I want to get out of it. You see, at an American comedy company, because it is a comedy club, people come there for it. A lot of open mics I go to at bars such as Space or Quantum Brewing or another place, you'd always get people who are there specifically to hear jokes, so sometimes the crowd isn't always on your side. But I'd find in either environment, I seem to say some things that kind of get people shaking their heads. I'd have to say American Comedy Company for that reason, but at the same time, Madhouse here, because all the comedians are here on a long list. We tend to have more time to just hang out and maybe chat outside and workshop some jokes. So I think those are a few pros and cons of at least these places anyway.
All right, cool, sweet. So what was your family life growing up?
So, I'm the youngest of 6.
Oh, wow.
When I tell people that, sometimes they'll ask if I'm Catholic. I am not. I didn't grow up poor in poverty. I had a father that worked multiple jobs at a time. I explained that I come from the Midwest, a very kind of rural area. A lot of people seem to think I would have a negative outlook on my childhood, which I do, but it's not like I look back at it a lot to find bad things. I kind of like to dig for nostalgia a lot. For instance, I just bought a couple consoles I would have had as a kid, so like a PlayStation 2 and Nintendo 64, like a Game Boy Advanced.
Oh, that's cool.
I kind of find that when I kind of do a lot of perspective taking of when I was a kid, there are a lot of people kind of, I don't know, a lot of the troubles I had as a kid were really funny, Yeah. And all very relatable. Like, I had a brother who used to beat me up a lot. And once I kind of realized a lot of people have that experience, I kind of thought it was kind of fun to kind of mess around with the kind of the ongoings of it.
Yeah.
So anything I could do to like create a situation where there'd be a kind of funny outcome, I'd do it. I don't know. It's like I'm the only person in my family that ever left the state too. So I kind of do a bit of trolling whenever I see people and go back.
Yeah.
It's never lost upon me.
Cool. So what was your earliest memory?
When I was 18 months old, I fell out of a second-story window.
Dang.
Yeah, you see, we lived in this old farmhouse that my father had grew up in. It burned down in 2005, but before that happened, there's a telephone pole right outside my sister's window, and me and all my siblings would always slide down it and go play outside.
Wow.
Well, my dad wasn't quite too happy about that, so one day he pulled it out of the ground in the little concrete structure that held it up.
Wow.
Well, I guess I was unaware of this, and I went to go down it by myself, and I hit the ground.
You were expecting a pole to be there, and there was nothing.
Right. I ran to the front door, or maybe I crawled, I'm not quite sure. And I remember banging on the door. My parents, they were watching American Chopper, and they were like feeling me all over, trying to see if anything was broken. They're on the phone with like the with the nurse's hotline or something.
Wow.
And all seemed fine, so I didn't go to doctor or anything afterwards. And now I'm like this.
Jeez. That's a crazy story. So you fell and didn't really get hurt.
Maybe.
Or maybe you did. Do you think you landed on your head? Is that what you're trying to say?
You know, I wouldn't rule that out.
Exactly. Cool. So do you do any other type of art?
Yeah, I like to write stories. I'm a big writer guy.
Cool.
I really got into essay writing when I was in high school. I really liked trolling my English teacher a lot. She was a very nice lady. So it was kind of like a game I would play where I would pick the most controversial topic and try to get everyone in the class to kind of bend to it.
Right.
One I did kind of like a demonstration on Impossible Whoppers versus regular Whoppers, where I brought one into class, one of each, and then I had one person start eating them, and as they did such, I'd read off the ingredients of the Impossible Burger. My entire point was that people mistake meat-free options as being a healthy choice.
Right.
Not always the case. I mean, I like vegan food sometimes, but I used to just do stuff like that all the time. I was just a little jerk, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, essays, stories. I'm not going to say I'm working on writing a TV show or anything because I'm never going to pitch it, but, you know, that's for me.
Sure.
I like having writing projects like that. My favorite author, Chuck Palahniuk, the guy famously for writing Fight Club,
Yeah.
he's my favorite author, so I take a lot of my inspiration from him specifically.
Oh, that's cool. So, what's the biggest audience you perform for so far?
Oh, that's a tough one. A lot of the rooms are really dark.
Yeah.
I'd have to say, give or take 180, 200 people, something like that.
Yeah. Cool.
I believe that's when ACC was completely packed for one of the mics.
Sure.
So I'd be willing to bet it was about that.
All right. Nice.
Great crowd.
Yeah. So, have you ever done a character on stage?
Oh yeah, I'm kind of living him every day. Yeah, after I fell out of that window, I've just been playing normal ever since. But no, a lot of jokes. Well, they're jokes for a reason.
Yeah.
Some of them are in truth. Some of them completely lies. So I'd like to think that I go between like playing a bit of a character when I do jokes.
Sure.
Like Lukas Fox isn't my real name. It's a stage name I use because some of the things I'd say I'd rather they not get tied back to my family or nothing like that.
Right.
So I guess every time I go out and perform, I am putting on a bit of a persona.
Sure. Cool. Nice. Let's see. So, have you ever won a comedy contest or anything like that?
I won a talent show when I was in high school
Oh, cool.
for doing a comedy.
Nice.
Yeah, I was at a summer camp when I did that. It was a real interesting summer camp. It was for people who ran long distance, like cross country.
Yeah.
So the camp was kind of built around every day there'd be one or two separate running events. Now I was always kind of the odd man out because I couldn't run very well.
Yeah.
But I really like being outdoorsy since I'm a Eagle Scout. So while I wasn't the fastest person there, I'd always be in the woods like gathering sticks for campfires and such. So I guess I was kind of like on everyone's good side as kind of being a useful person.
Yeah.
I think my jokes have gotten a lot better since then.
Sure.
I bet I could probably find the set list I did for that. It was probably about a minute long, I'd bet. But yeah, it was that comedy. It was that talent show. I won it 2 years in a row.
Wow.
Something I think is also worth mentioning is about a year ago here they had a talent show, and it was only 90-second long sets, and I didn't really feel that my jokes could really work and land that well within 90 seconds.
Yeah.
So I decided, instead of having my talent, instead of it being comedy, I would describe my talent as making people uncomfortable. So I went up on stage, and I made everyone uncomfortable for a minute and a half straight. Now, I don't think I won that talent show. I know I didn't, but I felt pretty good about myself afterwards.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone's going to forget that.
Okay. Sweet. Let's see. So, what's your best booking story? Like, you're like, oh, I got booked on this show, and I was like, I couldn't believe it, or something. Does it happen?
So my friends, Annie and Eric, they do a show over at El Cid Brewing.
Yeah.
And typically you sign up for their show on Slotted. Well, I didn't think to do that first, but I showed up and asked if I could get a spot.
Yeah.
And they were like, sure. Well, anyway, I think I did enough to either impress or scare them to where they let me on again.
That's cool.
About a month and a half, 2 months later, they were doing a showcase, and one of the people performing didn't show up. I just came to watch, and they asked if I could do a set.
Uh-huh.
And it went really well, so I'd say kind of in a weird way I got in their good graces doing that. So
Yeah.
kind of, even if that isn't completely a booking story,
No, it's a good story.
I kind of got a permanent place whenever I go to one of their events now.
Nice. Yeah, it's a good story. Cool. So what's the worst thing about comedy right now?
I think the worst thing about comedy right now is really just being able to give and take criticism from comics.
Yeah.
Now, that is kind of a constant problem no matter what. It just seems nowadays people don't really know how to communicate criticism effectively.
Yeah.
Now, something I think every single person doesn't really struggle from, but kind of needs to find balance with themselves doing, is finding when to let go of certain things and move on. Mind you, when you hear the same jokes from the same crowd a lot, a part of you wants to, give your input a lot, but a lot of people want to take those lessons from themselves, and they also, you don't want to seem like the guy that gives unsolicited advice. That's always like a position no one wants to be in.
Yeah.
I think the comedy scene is a little bit oversaturated since the pandemic has slowed down. I think a lot of people aren't going to keep on doing comedy for long times. A lot of people kind of filter out. It's a good thing that people try it.
Sure.
I'd rather people do than don't. I think that offers a lot. But I'd say it's really just communicating between other people in the scene is kind of a big, not really issue, but a big kind of like persistent problem. A lot of ego is involved with doing comedy. You kind of need to have ego, because there's things I say on the stage that I want to say I won't say in front of people, but I would anyway because I'm an asshole. But
Right.
a lot of people don't. So you kind of get a little bit of like a two-faced sometimes, like a little bit of a difference in character with people.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's part of the fun anyway.
Sure. Yeah. All right. Let's see. Have you ever been in a car accident?
Oh, several.
Okay.
Several. The first one I recall, I think I was 3 or 4 years old. I was in Detroit. We hit a semi-truck.
Dang.
I wasn't driving, it was my parents, so I should say they did, but...
At 3 or 4, I hope you weren't driving.
Well, it is a little bit of a foggy memory.
Sure. Jeez.
So there's that. When I was in 6th grade, it was March time in Michigan. And I was in the back seat right behind the driver's seat, in my brother's like 90s Jeep Cherokee. I was on my school laptop playing Happy Wheels, and he hit a patch of black ice.
Nice.
He pulled a 180 and flipped and rolled.
Oh my goodness.
The Jeep was totaled. A lot of people came by to check on us, including my dad's boss at the time, who just happened to be in the area.
Wow.
And we all seemed a little shook, but still all right.
Wow.
Until I scratched my head, and then my hand was suddenly just like red.
Wow.
I'd busted my head open in this crash. There's a lot of stories of me hitting my head very hard.
Jeez.
So I took an ambulance ride to the hospital. That was pretty neat.
Wow.
And I think my parents are still paying for it.
Oh my goodness. That's awful.
But that's all before I even got my car,
Sure.
or I started driving. But those aren't interesting. Week after I got the car, power steering went into a cornfield when I was driving to school. But I just drove out of the field with a lot of crunchy steering, and fixed it and crashed it a few more times. Sold the car to someone, they crashed it, and
Jeez.
but yeah, that's about all the important ones, I think.
Okay. Cool. Let's see. So you're in the military, right?
Yep.
So how do you like that?
Oh, it's good. Got me out of my home state. Met a lot of good people. Met a lot of people I wish I didn't meet, but that's anything, right?
Sure.
I don't think the military's for everybody. I think maybe if I was in a different part of my life, I would have opted not to join.
Yeah.
Not even talking about the motivations behind it. It was COVID. Everyone was losing their jobs, and seemed like a good way to get out at the time.
Yeah.
I had been kind of weighing on it for a while. But yeah, I joined. I've been stationed here in San Diego. I've been stationed in Japan. I've kind of gotten to be all over the place. I've had a lot of very, very, very specific and interesting experiences. I know what it's like to jack off on a $8 billion aircraft carrier. I know what it's like to pass out in a Japanese strip club.
Wow.
While wearing the goofiest outfit you can think of. I know what it's like to spend every cent I have in a strip club because I haven't had a shred of positive attention for an extended amount of time. And I know what it's like to get yelled at by another grown man for not shaving.
Okay.
I rather enjoy it.
Sweet. So you're still in the military right now?
Yeah.
Cool.
It's experience may vary. I think that's a really good way to put it.
Sure. So how much longer do you have?
I'm not sure. I don't really have a good answer. I can say I've been in for about 4.5 years now. Doesn't really feel that long,
Sure.
but sometimes it does.
Yeah. Did you recently re-enlist or?
No. I'm just like in a part where I haven't really decided yet.
Okay.
The thing is, there's a lot of uncertainty that comes with it. My big one is where you're stationed at.
Okay.
Like being in Japan, great duty station. Being here, great duty station. However, if I stay in, I could be sent to a place I wouldn't want to go, maybe like Florida or
Sure.
Virginia,
Yeah.
or maybe Washington State. There's all the uncertainty with stuff like that. But, if I can get like in a position where I can know that I'm going to be staying in a place like this, I'll stay in.
Yeah.
You go somewhere, you make friends, you have to leave, you go somewhere, That's probably the hardest part of it all.
Sure. So, how much longer until you have to make a decision?
I'm not sure. There's just a lot of components of how that works in certain situations. Mine is a little bit more complicated and personal,
Okay.
but
Sure.
but it's nothing too interesting, really.
Okay. Cool, no problem. Let's see. So, when you did jokes in Japan, did you think, oh, I should keep doing this, or?
Oh yeah, I love a tough crowd. That's my favorite. Because for me, a laugh is great, but for me, just the thrill of doing it is the best part. Being in the Navy and all that. There's a lot of Americans like in small bits around Japan, and if you stay local to the area, it's usually bars packed with them. One night they were doing sort of like a open mic style thing,
Yeah.
and I came up with what I thought was a really great joke that I came up with on the spot because I wasn't prepared. I just walked into this thing.
Yeah.
It was something along the lines of, do Japanese people feel the same way about Godzilla as we do about 9/11? I didn't really know how insensitive, someone might find that joke.
Sure.
Japanese people aren't very sensitive, really.
Yeah.
No one laughed at the joke either. I thought it was funny.
Right. Well, I guess the thing about Godzilla is he keeps showing up.
Yeah, you gotta watch out for that guy. He'll get you.
Sure.
He doesn't care what I think, not one bit.
No. Doesn't know you exist.
He doesn't care who the king of Japan is. He doesn't care about nothing. He's a big guy. I think King Kong should have won that fight, honestly.
Yeah, for sure. Yep. Oh, okay. I always ask this question. I don't always know what the answer is. Sometimes I do. When did we meet?
Huh. I definitely saw you. I definitely saw you before I met you.
Yeah.
At that time, you were doing your joke that centered around vitamin D. I remember the first time I did an open mic, Carl and who was that? Older Stu. Yeah, I sat with them and Lippy in the back of ACC. You were someone I saw go up, and yeah, I remember that for sure. The first time we spoke, I don't know. It must have been sometime after I went up. Like either you would have had to approach me, or people must have been just chatting outside and must have been in the same conversation circle.
Yeah.
It had to be something around that, because that was before you started on your pretzel bit.
Yeah. Cool. Sweet. Let's see. So, what do you do in the Navy to kill time? Do you like play cards or?
No, what I do is I have this app here on my phone called Satera, and what it is, I'll show you, is you go on here and it helps you memorize maps and flags.
Oh, wow.
Like, let me turn the volume off here. I can go on here, pull up a map of Africa, Europe, Asia, countries, different regions of the world, capitals, and it has me train memorizing where different countries are. Like right now, I'm on Africa. Click on Uganda. I can go on here and I can tell you exactly where Uganda is, or
that's awesome.
Or all these different countries. So I know it's like to be taking a real nasty shit. Some of those Navy toilets are very unforgiving. Yeah. Splash salt water at you.
Nice.
I have this thing, it's called Double Dragon. It's where someone doesn't wash their hands after taking a caca, and they like touch doorknobs and stuff, and soon enough everyone on the ship gets it, where they're puking and shit out of both ends. I've spent a pretty good amount of time playing this game, while I was on the can. Yeah. It's a different phone, don't worry. But so I got about everything memorized. A lot of people, if they're on duty and they have access to the internet, they play GeoGuessr. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Other times I like to work on impressions. We have a lot of reading material we have to study and memorize.
Okay.
So sometimes I'll just be reading something and I'll change my voice and I'll read it out loud.
Wow, that's cool.
I try my jokes out on people. Really inappropriate times. I really like the negative energy. I think it's funny.
Oh my.
So, I might just be standing up, rehearsing what's in the deck log with like an accent or something. Yeah, they say I'm a real character.
I bet. That's cool. Let's see. So, do you see yourself pursuing writing as a career as well? Or?
If I can, that would be great. For me, though, it's just like I said, when it comes to kind of like giving criticism and critiques to other comics, I think there's a lot of ego that's required to do something like this.
Yeah.
So I think there's that. There's a lot of competition when it comes to writing, and sometimes you may have to write to satisfy certain people rather than write what you prefer. So those are obstacles, I keep in mind.
Sure.
So that's for sure. But yeah, that's something I'm quite interested in pursuing. Issue I do kind of have is I don't want to make a hobby of mine or something that's very intimate to me too much of a regular job.
Right.
I don't want something I take a lot of joy in to become mundane. So what I really like about comedy is it's not really too much of a linear thing. I can, when I'm on stage, I can kind of do whatever I want.
Sure.
And, if people want to book me, well, that's what you want, of course. But if I can, do what I need to do on stage and be entertaining, that's perfect. I just don't want to, do my jokes to satisfy people. I want it to be funny, but I don't want to do things just because people want to hear certain things or they want to agree with me.
Okay.
So that's something, I'm always thinking about when it comes to my ambitions when it comes to writing.
Yeah.
A lot of novelists, they have to satisfy their publishers. And when it comes to working with like studios or anything, you have to work within their confines. So
right. Well, I mean, a lot of times if you write a script, then it's out of your hands once it's done, right? And then they just go and do what they want with it.
I think as long as I can keep my voice and integrity in my writing, that's something I'm always willing to pursue. Right now, I'm just working on a few personal projects right now, and a few like smaller things that I hope to make into bigger things later.
All right, nice, sweet. So, what kind of music do you like?
Oh, I love rock music. I like select country music.
Yeah.
I like pop music, not newer pop music. Not that I don't like it. I just prefer some of the older stuff. When I was a kid, I wasn't like in poverty or anything, but I didn't have a lot of money. So, and being that I kind of grew up in a rural area in the Midwest, I kind of felt like I was 10 years behind everybody.
Uh-huh.
So I didn't have like an iPod or anything like that before everyone moved on to phones. And by the time everyone moved on to phones, that's when I got my iPod.
Okay.
Before I had my iPod, I had like CDs and cassette tapes that I'd found or bought for cheap. Like, remember when people had to listen to the radio to
Yeah.
get their music, and whatever was on was what you were going to listen to?
Yeah.
Yeah, I seem to enjoy a lot of music that my dad liked, and when I got into middle school and I kind of started to find my own identity a bit, branched out into more stuff.
Yeah.
So rather than just purely liking like metal music, which is more of what my dad would be into, I kind of got into other stuff like
Yeah. That's cool.
like 80s pop or stuff that's more kind of like I don't know, just kind of more mainstream, like Billy Joel and like the Rolling Stones and stuff like that.
Cool.
My first concert was Black Sabbath. I saw them in Detroit back in 2016, and this last year I went to quite a few concerts. Very
Nice.
diverse range. I saw Billy Joel here in San Diego, Tyler Childers. I saw Willie Nelson twice. I saw Corey Taylor of Slipknot last October.
Okay.
So yeah, just a pretty broad spectrum of music, I'd say.
That's cool. So, do you know how to play music? Or?
When I was in high school, I played the tuba in the marching band.
Okay.
Something I find worth saying now is when I was a junior in high school, our varsity football team had made it to state finals.
Wow.
Now, we were Division 8 football, which means very small school. I was in a graduating class of 52.
Wow.
And making it to state finals was a big deal for our school, obviously.
Yeah.
And state finals took place at Ford Field in Detroit. And so I played an Imagine Dragons halftime show on tuba on Ford Field, and I think that would have made it 2018, I'd like to say.
Uh-huh.
So I played tuba. My dad liked to collect guitars as he was really into metal music, so I can play a couple chords on guitar myself.
Cool.
So that's pretty good. I like to say I can sing decently when I'm drunk. I think that's fair to say for anyone.
Sure.
Really.
So, do you sing like karaoke or?
Yeah, when I lived in Japan, karaoke, big deal in Japan.
Sure.
I do it quite a lot. In fact, there's this one bar off base called George's. It was a country bar.
Yeah.
And for a long time, I'd just go there every night, get trashed, and do karaoke. And I did it consistently enough that I got pretty decent, so much to where the owner would approach me whenever he saw me, and he'd ask if I was singing that night.
Huh.
And with that, I was able to get a lot of free drinks.
Nice.
So that was kind of like my routine. I'd go there, I'd smoke a cigar or two. And you can smoke indoors in a lot of places in Japan.
Yeah.
Really good deal. Everyone wanted to be my girlfriend too. It was nuts. But I got a pretty good Elvis impression at that time. I saw the movie that came out and I was just kind of all over it. But yeah, so tuba guitar, a little bit of vocals. Can't really do anything else. I can do pretty cool effects with my mouth, but I'm not going to do any of them for you here. Don't want to blow out your mic.
That's fine. That's super cool. Nice. Let's see. So is San Diego the ideal place for you to be deployed right now? Or what would be a place that you would want to go to?
I'd say between here and Japan, these are the two best places personally. Now the prices here aren't really sustainable for a lot of people, but me being a single guy without a whole lot of cost and having a pretty decent place to live, I'd say it's a pretty great place to be. Now,
yeah.
I know that comedy-wise, like a lot of people are migrating over to Austin, kind of making that the hub of the comedy scene. I'd say if it weren't for the cost of living, San Diego would probably be the best place behind LA and New York.
Sure.
But it's that old cost of living that kind of gets you. People like us aren't really known for having high-paying jobs outside of this.
Yeah.
I mean, especially with the stuff I say, I probably wouldn't be able to get a job reading books to kids nonetheless, but I know I love it here. A lot of good food. In the Midwest, it's not very diverse. They give you probably the worst Mexican food you could have. Here, Mexico's right there.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Great place.
Yeah. So what's your favorite type of food then? Mexican food or?
If I were to break my favorite foods up, it would be Mexican, Italian, and pizza's its own category in this case.
Okay.
I would have to say Mexican food is my favorite. The way I kind of judge or get a first impression of a Mexican place is how they make their refried beans. That's kind of where I start. My favorite Mexican food is chili relleno, so of course I eat a lot of that. And I'm a really big birria guy.
Yeah.
Something I really appreciate about Mexican food is it pairs really well with alcohol.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm a real slut for tamales too.
Yeah.
Like, I love tamales.
That's cool. I just think they're kind of dry, personally, but
You got a bad hookup. Or did someone tell you to take the husk off first?
yes. I definitely take the husk off.
Oh yeah, I just love all the kind of like Latin, Hispanic like type foods. I got some Cuban food last night. It's pretty good. Yeah, I don't get drunk as fast when I'm eating good food, because it all kind of sucks it up.
Yeah.
I had a double painkiller. Didn't do anything to me.
What's a double painkiller?
I don't know. It has a lot of rum and juice in it, so
okay.
Should be making me shit blood, but it didn't.
Oh. There you go. Sweet. So what's your favorite food to prepare?
I got a pretty good recipe for clam chowder that I do.
Yeah.
Sort of proud of. It's not original. I just tried eggplant. I made eggplant the other day for the first time. Eggplant parmesan. It was very good. But I'd have to say, let me think here. because I really like cooking a new thing every single week. That's
Okay.
one of my things. So I really have to dig deep here in my catalog.
Well, I mean, maybe your favorite thing is just to make something new every time.
Oh no, it's grilled cheese. I like making grilled cheese.
Okay.
The cheaper the ingredients, the better.
Yeah.
That has never not been true for grilled cheese.
Wow.
It's not even my favorite food, but shit, I make a good grilled cheese.
Cool. Do you ever have it with soup or?
Oh yeah, I put it with my chowder sometimes.
Yeah.
Real good stuff.
Sweet.
I don't really count it because I don't really cook it with all of its own ingredients, but I like to take a good old can of Wolf brand chili and put a fried egg on it with like some chives and sour cream and
Yeah.
shredded cheese. And I like to have like a beefy 5-layer burrito with it.
Wow. Crazy.
Yeah.
Nice. So you said you're the youngest of 6 children,
Mm-hmm.
right? So the oldest is how much older than you?
5 years. Yeah, so imagine
What?
imagine a 17-year-old beating up a 5th grader.
Jeez.
Yeah.
5 years.
Not saying there's anything wrong with that. I'm just saying pretty good comparison, right?
Sure.
And it's interesting is all my siblings are like half siblings, so
Okay.
like when you account for the amount of kids and the age difference, it kind of helps like put in perspective that you have someone who's 5 years older than me, someone who's 3.5 years older than me, someone who's 3 years older than me, and then, well, you get to me at that point.
Wow. Wow.
Well, it was real interesting because
Did you all grow up together? Or?
we did, and it's funny, if you asked any of us about our childhood, you'd get a drastically different answer from each of us on what our childhood was like.
Yeah.
So I think it's kind of funny.
Wow.
I don't really have any negative thoughts about my childhood because it's like, you know, it's kind of a choice to be sad about stuff that already happened.
Sure.
I mean, it's kind of like the whole entire Japan Godzilla thing.
Yeah.
They're very resilient people to get over that.
Yeah, definitely. So are you still in contact with your family?
Yeah. Not me and my siblings get along just fine. It's just kind of nothing interesting happens back where they're at. So I kind of try to not talk to them too often, or else, you know, there's a lot of dead air on the phone whenever we chat. I gotta say, I think my dad's probably my favorite person.
Okay.
So it's never really a bad talk with him, even if it's a little bit boring. But yeah, it's still a pretty good thing. I think it's for the better that I stay out here.
Yeah.
Because I think they're all kind of rooting for me in a way.
Yeah.
But yeah, we all get along fine. I didn't go home for Christmas this year, so
Yeah.
next time I see him, I don't know when that'll be, but I think it'll be fun.
All right. Cool. So are they like having kids? Are they having kids? Or?
Yep. Yeah. So I have some nieces and nephews. I'm not gonna count them all out, but you know, it's a good handful between my siblings. It's real interesting watching them become parents after they acted like mine were jerks when we were kids.
Right.
Yeah, it's weird. Like, so our cousins were older than we were, so they were like late teens, early 20s when we were kids. So
Wow.
it would always be a joy at holidays watching my cousins have kids. Always kind of like talk about how they think their parenting style is better than the other ones, or
Right.
how they're approaching parenting is better than the way our parents did it.
Sure.
And how, oddly enough, they talk about ending generational trauma, which I think is kind of a shitty thing to do in front of your own parents. I think it's like, screw you, but Oh, it's real interesting to watch, especially now with like kind of the newer generation of kids, seeing what they're going to be like.
Yeah.
Because kind of like I stated earlier, like we had stuff. It wasn't the newest stuff. Like cell phones were a thing, but smartphones weren't a thing till I was. I can't really say a little bit older when I'm still talking about being like less than 10 years old, but
Sure.
I didn't grow up with like the internet, but it was still a thing.
Right.
So now that we have these kids that are growing up with the internet from the start, and you know you can just put a show on for them and just like leave.
Yeah.
Like I think it's real interesting to see the people they're gonna become. And being that I'm in the military and I'm not around them, I only see them at like intervals. I don't see them very consistently.
Right.
So yeah, it's interesting seeing the type of parents the siblings here are gonna turn out to be.
Sure.
I don't know, maybe their kids are gonna be real screwed up and I'll think it's funny. I don't know.
Sure.
I don't know.
Did you just have brothers or brothers and sisters?
One brother and 4 sisters.
Wow.
Yeah, a lot of women.
So the brother is the oldest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's funny. We have different dads, so he looks nothing like me. Me and him, he could be holding my hand walking in Walmart, and people think he's kidnapping me.
Wow.
Yeah, it's kind of weird because my parents never gave me the talk, about sex as a kid.
Yeah.
So I never, but being that we had access to like pornography and stuff, I didn't really have to ask. And when we did health class and they're explaining like puberty to us, I got a fucking front row seat, like seeing all my siblings, like kind of experience it first.
Sure.
So it wasn't really a mystery to me.
Yeah.
Why, like, my brother was like killing small animals and like, like taking like his rage out on me and stuff, like.
Right.
But no, it was a real interesting way to grow up. And being that they're all my half siblings, like, it didn't really feel like we're a family at times, like it does now, but like it felt like they were just like my peer group.
Yeah.
So it just made for a real interesting dynamic where I didn't really feel like, and I'm the only redheaded one too.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't like making fun of me for that one. I know, it was a real interesting way to grow up.
Wow. Yeah, it's interesting. So all the other, so each have a different dad, or?
So 3 of my siblings and me have the same mom, and 2 of them have the same dad but a different mom. My mom had a few kids, my dad had a few kids, and then they met and they had me. Very bad family planning.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know what it was with them.
Wow.
Yeah, my parents, they met working on an assembly line at Frigidaire, I think.
Okay.
I was trying to be cheeky. One time I asked my dad if they ever thought about suing the condom factory. And he said there wasn't a condom. It's kind of weird. My dad was 26 when I was born, and I'm turning 23 now.
Wow.
So I kind of think of it as I have 3 years to get my act together before I have to get a single mom pregnant. I'd like to think I take after my dad.
Sure. Makes sense. Yeah. So do you want kids, or?
It's not that I want them or don't want them, but I always want to be prepared for the possibility that I could.
Right.
So a lot of times I'll watch a movie or like a Disney movie or something, and I'll think, if I have kids, I wouldn't mind watching this like on repeat all day.
Okay.
Or kind of thinking about experiences from my childhood that I'd like them to have or not have.
Right.
Like, I was in a lot of youth organizations growing up, so I think that would be very good. May probably help my kid be a little bit more well-adjusted.
Yeah.
I kind of see the way kids are turning out when they're in front of a screen constantly, so
Sure.
And I love giving unsolicited parenting advice as much as the next person.
Okay.
So I'm actually kind of happy all my family's having kids, so I kind of get to kind of cherry pick, what they do.
Right.
But it's weird too because there's things about my childhood that I don't really see a problem with that other people might, and I want to make sure I kind of work through those before I have a kid.
Sure.
I don't know who would be stupid enough to have a kid with me, but
Right.
a big debate that's been going on for years is soft parenting. That's a technique people have always seemed to have issues with. Like when I was a kid, I was spanked.
Right.
Not for fun, but and I don't even remember ever doing anything to deserve or warrant getting a spanking. But
Yeah.
when me and my siblings were younger, we get spanked and it was no big deal. None of us, have commit any violent crimes or anything yet.
Yeah.
And there's the debate whether that's the right thing to do or not.
Sure.
What warrants those situations. So I kind of like to kind of reflect and kind of meditate on those things,
Yeah.
because I don't know. My parents, they turned out fine. I mean, they ended up having 6 stupid kids, but
Right.
I don't know. Those are the things I kind of consider when I kind of think of the question of having a family.
Yeah. All right. Cool. Sweet. Let's see. So, do you collect anything or?
Nothing really comes to mind at first. You see, well, being in the military, you kind of have to be able to pick up and move a lot. So I don't
Sure.
really have a lot of knickknacks or anything like that. The things I hang on to, I like to hang on to notes and notebooks,
Okay.
stuff like that. I like food gadgets, not bulky ones, but usually handheld ones. I usually like to hang on to those. Don't know if I'd call it collecting, but some different types of sodas, you can find some real interesting ones at some of these liquor stores and corner markets,
Okay. Cool.
stuff like that usually.
Yeah. Let's see. Do you know any other languages or?
I know a couple words in Spanish and German and a few in Japanese.
Okay.
Not very proficient in anything.
Sure.
I tried to learn Italian.
Huh.
I don't know why, but I know enough words to sound like I don't know what I'm talking about.
Okay.
I remember I took Spanish in high school.
Yeah.
It was required to take a language course. At that time, music didn't count. Now it does. But
Huh.
I remember the first day of Spanish class, the teacher was taking attendance, and she was going through, and she eventually gets to my name. So I yell out, "Aloha," and she goes, "That's Hawaiian, that's not Spanish." I go, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not very good at speaking Mexican." The teacher's punching her like she's going, "It's Spanish."
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, a little bit of trolling.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Is there anything else you want to talk about?
Let's see, being that talking about comedy, let me ask you, who's your favorite comedian of all time?
Oh, it varies. Just Robin Williams or Steve Martin. I remember really liking Eddie Murphy. When I was a teenager.
You ever kind of like categorize them, kind of like rank your favorite based on a quality? Like if I were to say, for instance, George Carlin, I think is really good at like being cynical and still being funny and not
Yeah.
sounding mundane. Or Bill Burr knows how to backpedal in the best way. Or um,
Yeah.
my favorite, Norm, he just knows how to act like he doesn't give a crap, what the outcome is going to be or who cares.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I don't really categorize people.
Oh, I love categorizing people.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's,
skin color, sexual orientation, age.
yeah.
Yeah, by the protected groups, I guess.
Sure.
Yeah, you have to work around those or else HR will get you.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's like definitely comics that I mean, I just like all types of comedy, really, and just trying to find my own comic voice, I want to try other styles too. It's like, and then there's times where it's like, I would be fascinated. I wish that if you could just like take the age where, we're recording everything, and just like push it back in time. It'd be interesting to see like these big comics that you admire just failing over and over at open mics and be like, how did they crack, find their voice? You know what I mean?
Right.
Kind of interesting because there's like, there's so many of them. Like people, comics give you advice, and it's like, well, it's hard to always take their advice because they're like, you're doing comedy so different than me. You know what I mean? Like you have to like just take the advice from the audience. Like this is working. So what do they know?
Right, I noticed I'm quick-witted, but I'm not really good at like holding like a story or or making a joke long or lasting. Kind of do one-liners, Can't really do it on like some of our friends here. So that's kind of something I'm trying to improve on a bit. I don't really have a problem having snappy comebacks. You've been in a few roast battles. I've had I have one that's coming up here on January 22nd against our friend Xana here. What do you think on roast? I find that like writing, roast and all that kind of fits my style of comedy pretty well. And I know you've done quite a few, so you have any thoughts on that stuff?
Yeah, roasts are definitely fun. It is different, I don't really write roast jokes except for the roast battles. But sometimes I do think I should do more stuff where making fun of people because the world is full of dumb people. So I sometimes do think I should be like talking about this.
No way to not make it sound mean, but saying it as it is.
Yeah, like, or even like the style of like you say something and then the people, they're able to win over the audience with some kind of statement that at first they're like, whoa, it's kind of interesting. I don't know if I'll ever actually do that, but it's kind of something to try and to get better at.
So an observation our friend Corey had when I was talking to him the other day. He said when I'm doing a set, I'll win the crowd over and I'll be doing really well, and I'll purposely bomb at the end.
Right.
Or I'll try to get the crowd to hate me. So when I'm doing my regular jokes, I usually tend to make myself the butt of the joke a lot because something you hear a lot is don't punch down.
Right.
And the way I kind of see it is I'm I want my jokes to be a reflection of my feelings, and I don't want to make too many cheap shots of jokes.
Sure.
There's nothing wrong with a cheap shot or hacky joke. I just don't pretend like it's more sophisticated than it is.
Sure.
So when it comes to roast and you're kind of in this consensual exchange where you're just being really mean, I think there's a lot of freedom in that. And
right. Yeah. I mean, I guess the trick is to not be so mean where people go, oh, mean enough, or I guess more funny than mean. And the way to really do it is just like to practice it in front of audiences. It's like hard to just, because if you just practice in front of other comics, or you tell other comics your roast jokes, they might end up being meaner than the audience is ready for.
Well, mind you, it's like at least in a lot of the battles that we might be in, or a lot of our fellow comics here in San Diego might be in, like we're all very familiar with each other. Whereas I don't know if in every single roast where you may be pitted up against someone you don't really know at all. I think we have a good kind of circumstance where the jokes are usually better because they're a lot more not really personal, but a lot more like intimate. Now, I have definitely said jokes at other people's expense, including your own, like when getting on and off stage. Sometimes I feel bad about it. It's not because I don't think it's ever funny or not funny.
Right.
I just don't want to take the wind out of anyone's sails when they're
Sure.
not asking for it, at least.
Yeah, I remember recently you said I got off stage, you got on stage, and you said something, and then I answered it, and then you're like, you took all the air out of the room, and I'm like, what are you talking about? You brought it up.
I recall I said, hey, Aaron, you really took all the air out of the room, just like you did with that cat in the alley.
Okay, maybe I missed that last part.
The other one was you talked about setting like a stopwatch while having intercourse, and well, I'm not going to finish that, but I recall that one. There was another comic who was making jokes about OCD, so I was kind of playing off that too. That went earlier. I think really that just tells me I need to try to host sometime.
Yeah, absolutely. If that's what you like, you could just, especially just like an open mic, because an open mic it's more acceptable to kind of roast the comic as opposed to a show. You probably wouldn't want to roast each of the comics that were on the show.
I don't think there's anything good or smart about someone saying they don't judge people, because I judge everybody. Right. And it's not from in the key is you don't judge anyone based on certain characteristics like age, religion, well, age if they're a minor. I usually stay away from them though, like race, sex, religion. Usually you don't judge people based off those, or people tell you not to. But I don't think there's any virtue in acting like you don't judge people, because I think, naturally we do. Some people are off-putting. Some people, might seem a little dangerous. Some people, have these little quirks you kind of want to look out for. When we kind of get into the, comedy thing and the people that are kind of drawn to it, of course we kind of think where people get their jokes from, or who told them they're funny, what kind of is their place, and it's really nice to get to know people. But I would be lying if I didn't say I didn't make up a backstory for a few people that I'm just kind of going off of just for fun.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, like everybody's judging people. Otherwise, you must have. How did you survive this long, right? Otherwise, you would be used by people and harmed, and you have to live a pretty sheltered life to not actually judge people, right? There's all people that would, hurt and kill you if you found yourself in this position of that you shouldn't be in.
That's why I'm happy there's a camera on us right now.
Otherwise, you'd be like, "What am I doing?"
No, I'd be wondering what's in that cooler.
Oh, it's water. You want a water?
No thanks. But no, yeah, you have to judge situations. Yeah. I think it's funny. Is there any discourse on the internet that you've been kind of looking at lately that's kind of had you interesting? Mine's been the whole entire healthcare CEO who got assassinated a few weeks ago. I thought that's interesting, and a lot of the big names in comedy commenting on it has been pretty interesting too. Something I hear people remarking about is, obviously, I'm not surprised that this person got killed. He definitely had a lot of enemies based on his position.
Yeah.
But he had a family. This is the wrong way of doing it and such.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'd like to think maybe his family didn't like him. Maybe his kids were like, "Hey, no one wants to be friends with me because you keep denying their parents' claims. Thanks a lot, Dad."
Right. Yeah, I wonder if they would lie about what the dad did or something. Because just because you're a CEO doesn't mean you're famous, right? I mean, if you get killed, then that's when you're in the spotlight. So before he was killed, I don't know if a lot of people in their life really knew, what they did. All they knew is, oh, you're rich or whatever. That's what I imagine. Do you, if you go to a rich neighborhood, do you look at that guy is CEO of, some big company. Unless you're looking it up, you're not going to know, right?
Oh, rich communities are weird, because in San Diego, all the houses are so expensive. I don't even know anymore.
Sure.
It's not really rich people. It's rich family, kids who come from affluent families that really, grind my gears.
Yeah.
There's a profound sense of on a lack of awareness of, how the world is completely different from what they're experiencing.
Sure.
So kind of when it comes to me and my hobby for cooking, I grew up just kind of eating what I felt was not very good food. Pretty popular joke is white people tacos or Caucasian tacos, where we use ground beef instead of whatever the equivalent of carne asada is. We don't right. Marinate and braise. It's just ground beef, a packet of seasoning on it.
Yeah.
No cilantro, nothing like that.
Yeah.
Store-bought tortillas. Just for example. So I kind of learned a lot of things that are fancy or sophisticated, don't take a lot. It just takes experience and effort, at least when it comes to food. But I found it's really just an attitude thing when you gotta get with people, because you can't buy class.
Sure.
You can't buy class. But yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't really follow the news that closely. I just kind of I guess I'm addicted to video game news, playing video games. So that for some reason, sometimes I spend more time listening to people talk about the video game news than playing games themselves. It's kind of interesting.
What I think is interesting is how a lot of times people they don't want comedians to get political.
Yeah.
Yeah, you take someone like George Carlin, who spoke a lot about politics.
Yeah.
But the thing is, he was smart and he was funny. A lot of people just want to be able to voice their opinions on things, so it comes off as kind of annoying when a lot of people just aren't very good at forming what seem like original thoughts. Like, right now I'm watching this HBO special thing, kind of like talking about George Carlin's life.
Yeah.
And I kind of think about where comedy was in the 60s to 70s to 80s to now, where you went from having a bunch of straight men, not like straight like they only like vagina, but I mean people who are very clean cut and stuff,
Right.
to where it kind of goes into counterculture, and then it gets really profane, and then stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I kind of think, what do I really want? What do I want my jokes to be about? What do I really want? Well, it's always to make people laugh. That's always the goal. If that's not the goal, I don't really see point in it. And it's like the difference between being aspiring to get big or just doing as a hobby.
Yeah.
Like, what I really just love about this is how, even though we're all like friendly with each other for the most part, there's like this competitive nature of comedy, which I think makes it just a real interesting dynamic for a kind of shared hobby like this.
Yeah.
Like,
Definitely.
I try to change my sets up as much as possible because, kind of like I said, when we're around each other a lot, we hear the same jokes, and I don't want to be someone giving unsolicited advice, so the best thing I can do to not kind of start worrying about other people and what they're doing is to kind of stay as on the beat as possible.
Sure. But do you think that your jokes are getting better?
I can say they're better than they were when I started,
Sure.
but am I getting better at doing them? That's really, I think, because I think jokes can kind of come and go and you can just like throw them out. Like,
Right. But let me ask you this. Even though you've seen comics do the same jokes over and over, don't you ever just see someone adding to it and expanding it and doing it a better version of it? I mean, that's really the reason to do the same jokes over and over, is you're making them better.
usually I'll see someone like add a tag or something, or maybe they'll take out like a redundant word. I'll see that sometimes. A lot of people I see, what they'll do is maybe they won't change the joke, but they'll just rearrange the way they put it in their set. Like,
Right.
like me personally, I try to take common tropes like the rule of three and try to turn that on its head as much as possible, or be very thoughtful when I use it. Like, I know when it comes to roast, a lot of people kind of build up in rules of three, and sometimes just saying the simplest, like sneaking in the punchline, is the best way to go. Well, at the same time, I can't really tell a long, like, storied joke the way some other comics can.
Yeah.
So I try to observe it when I can, but I also want to make sure when I'm speaking to other people about their jokes, because I don't know how personal they are when they come from. Kind of like why when I even discuss this, I try to speak about it in a very respectable way.
Right.
That at least if I'm kind of trying to pick up on these things, I'm kind of being constructive about it.
Sure. But I mean, what's the longest you've done a joke for?
Well, I can tell you I've revised my belt joke a bit. Well, at the same time, when you say how long we did it, difference between how many times I've actually said the joke, vice versa, how many times I've been able to go on stage within a certain amount of time. Like, for the longest time, when they weren't doing the Madhouse mic, there's quite a few jokes I just like dropped. When they were doing a few other open mics that they stopped doing downtown, like, I wasn't like in a space where certain jokes would kind of just come to me. So I don't know. I think the change of environments really make me like kind of switch up, the jokes I tell like that. Cause I don't really tell jokes that I've been telling for a while because I feel like they work in my set. They're kind of like fail safes so when like my writing is kind of coming to a standstill. Cause if I know a joke works, I don't really like telling it more than I have to. Because
so you're just
that's
trying to save them for getting out of situations where you're not doing good.
or at least just fluffing up the time a little bit.
Sure.
Like if I know the crowd isn't feeling me and I just need to throw something out there that I know works, it's a good tool. But when I go up, if I'm telling jokes I know work, unless I'm changing something, I feel like I'm kind of wasting the other comics' time because I'm using that time to just kind of, in my opinion, not really take anything out of that experience. Like I like to try to at least take one goal out of every performance, so as to not make it just repeating myself.
Right, but have you noticed that comics doing a joke that really works in the beginning and they win over the crowd early and then they can kind of do what they want in the middle and then end with a good joke at the end. Right? That's a good formula, right?
Well, yeah, and mind you, like we'd do like 3-minute sets, some places 5 minutes, and then so on. It kind of really depends how cohesive you can kind of make the whole thing.
Sure.
Kind of like how I kind of tell more so like one-liners. Like I'm trying to make it to where I'm not just pitching one-liner after one-liner after one-liner. And that's kind of like what I'm trying to work on right now, whereas a lot of people can like get a good hook, maybe it's the payoff or they're tying into something, or where they're putting emphasis, things like that. And like I just said, like kind of being in certain environments, really changes the way you write.
Yeah.
Like we're doing a mic at a barbecue restaurant, so I was thinking about a lot of pretty good barbecue jokes. Like one I did was like, if cows are sacred in India, do they serve brisket in heaven or hell? I don't think I could have thought of that anywhere else. Or when I was walking here, I farted, and a group of people walked by, and they all smelt it. But being that we're downtown, I could just say, it just stinks because we're downtown, or I could blame it on a homeless guy.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of funny. And probably wouldn't have thought of that if I took an Uber here.
Sure.
I really like just like being around other comics and kind of like spitballing off each other. I think we do our best writing when we're kind of just talking.
Yeah.
So even though I'm kind of talking about like criticisms or like ideas when it comes to writing and stuff, like that's just kind of like stuff I don't really know how to explain just because we're kind of dialing into it a lot, or it's not the first thing we're thinking about.
Yeah. Have you been part of any writing groups?
I haven't, but kind of like you said, where we all do different styles. I think it takes a lot of listening and kind of getting to know other people. I know some people where maybe I made like a quip, suggestion. Nothing that changed the joke, just maybe a different play on words.
Yeah.
That's usually a criticism that, like, when people do works pretty well.
Well, I would suggest, trying to do like Craig Sutton has a group called Write Tight. They meet like the first and third Sunday of the month at 4:00 at Subterranean Cafe. It's a good exercise, and I find that even if I don't get a lot of feedback from my joke, it's just a good exercise for me to like try to give other comics feedback in an environment where they're asking for feedback.
So something that's true about me that even if I don't talk about it a lot, it's very noticeable. I do have chronic anxiety, so
Okay.
it seems like I fire back a lot. So sometimes when I'm like kind of spacing out, or not really spacing out, but just kind of intently listening, sometimes I feel like I have to say something because there's a lot of dead air, and
Sure.
ever since doing comedy, I think it's helped me become a better listener. So whenever I'm kind of going about these, and like I said, a lot of these jokes are very personal with people, and
Right.
some are just throwaways, and we're kind of talking to each other about them. I think that's kind of the way we kind of gather and do this. I think it's a really nice stitch community we got so
Oh
far.
yeah, definitely. San Diego's great.
So it's one of those things where not criticizing, but trying to like at least give input on jokes is one of those like really hard things to do.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Because again, like maybe I'm wrong, and I don't want to, with people's limited stage time, have someone take a shot on something that I could be wrong about. But
Well, I mean, everybody. I mean, I've been to the writing group a few times, and it's like even when people give advice that they don't take, I think it's still helpful.
right, yeah, perspective's always good.
Yeah.
But I think that's another issue we kind of have, just like as comics. We don't really have the audience perspective. Really, we're kind of like we're talking about like rules of three. Like a lot of these things, like people, they come to watch. They're not thinking of certain things. So I think
I think it's subconscious too, right?
right. So kind of like getting into the perspective of an audience member, especially, is something I'm trying to kind of hone a bit better when I'm going about these new jokes. Like it being a new year, is there a way you kind of go about when you write something new, or do you say all?
It's just random. Although, right now, what I'm really trying to do is, it started a little before the new year started, but I just am trying to write more jokes that are real. Talk about my real life and stuff, and it's not easy. I mean, I feel like I could talk about my life and kind of make it funny and interesting, but like, there's a lot of fat and filler, and like I try to sit down and write it, about it, and it just gets to be so long. So I don't know if it's, I don't know if it's because I'm trying to talk about my real life, or mostly the past. Not. I don't know if it's that, or I'm not giving it enough time. Because like I just write jokes randomly. So, I guess also like there's times where I have had jokes that are real, but then I'm trying to make them longer. So I'm like adding all these tags that are not real now. Like I always tell people about. Well, I guess one thing I tried too at first was like tell the joke and then tell a story about the joke. And it usually is like, well, this part of it, the beginning part was real, and then I added all this other stuff to make it funnier, to make it longer. So it's just kind of interesting. Like that was like the first real attempt to try to, talk about real stuff.
Like you said, we have a lot of unconscious observations. I'm trying to kind of dial in on those a little bit more, because I think there's a lot of relatability and stuff like that. And kind of when you hear it, you kind of see people's ears perk up when, like, oh yeah, I have noticed that, or
right.
Like I take public transit everywhere, so I meet a lot of characters, or at least I see a lot of interesting things to talk about at least. So talking about personal stuff is always interesting. Yesterday I got accused of trauma dumping when I was speaking with a fellow comedian outside, and it was so weird to me because a lot of, kind of like I said, with like kind of like you'll tell someone something and they'll think it's like horrible or terrifying, but to you it's just normal, right?
Sure.
Something I've noticed is you can have the most valid reason or the most valid thing to complain about,
Yeah.
but people don't like hearing people complain,
Sure.
no matter what. Best lesson I learned in the last 3 years. No one likes hearing someone complain, no matter how justified it is.
Yeah.
And then you got people who classify some things as trauma dumping. So kind of trying to find the bridge between, like, you know, talking about something I feel a certain way about and not sounding kind of whiny about it,
Sure.
I think is something that I'm trying to meditate on a little bit. Some of my jokes, a lot of people will never find relatable, but at least if they hear me say it, and they at least believe it a tiny bit.
Sure.
I don't know, I think I'm a very strange individual. I think a lot of people are very concerned when I tell them things.
Sure.
I don't want to just say a lot of things and really, I don't want to talk a lot and say nothing, you know,
Yeah.
when I'm kind of spitballing here, but, you know, I don't know, I have a lot of thoughts I don't do anything with.
Oh yeah, that's normal. Absolutely. You know, like, what's a good exercise is like to sit and watch a few of the comics before you go up and just see if there's anything that is interesting. Or like, you know, the trick is to pretend that oh, I'm just making this up. You know, like this performance is unique. You know, and the audience likes being fooled that this isn't stuff that you've thought of before. You know, so that's ways of like trying to make it. You know, like you're talking about something that happened before. Then they're like, oh, there's no way that he could have, you know, thought of that
Seriously.
ahead of time.
So, like, being spontaneous gives you an air of honesty, which is useful.
Yeah, you know, even like you can even the advantage of seeing these same comics over and over again. You go, oh, look at the list. Oh, this comic and this comic and this comic is before me, and then to see, you know, you already know some of their jokes, right? So you can even like prepare ahead of time. Oh, if he talks about, you know, the subway joke, then I'm gonna go off of that or whatever, you know, because it's hard to do a callback unless you have a longer set. But if you can do a callback from someone else's material, then that might make it more dynamic and interesting and draw people in and going, oh yeah, we're just here right now. He's just making us laugh off the top of his head. It's not easy. I'm not saying it's easy.
I find that coming up with roast is the easiest thing to do just because it's a quick observation and
Sure.
because, you know, that kind of puts me in kind of like more of a spectator view. Like when it comes to the roast, you know, you're kind of thinking about the crowd, you know, what do they know and not know about the person and what's just like, you know, what can you make them believe? Like something I like to do is ask someone or have someone ask a yes or no question, but then add but this too. Like here's one. Hey Aaron, were you spanked when you were a kid?
Not really.
What were you spanked with?
Just a hand.
So you were?
Yeah, a few times.
I don't know. See, like I dug a little more than a yes or no, and it was.
Right.
I don't know. So I like to think when I'm coming up with jokes, I'm kind of doing that to myself in a way. Like I don't know. Like being relatable. I don't know. I have a really weird living situation. Not bad, as in just like I live alone, or I'm single. A lot of people are single, but you know I like being single because when I wake up with someone in my house, I get scared.
Okay.
Not really, but I don't know. You single, Aaron?
Yeah.
Do you like being single?
I'm concluding that I do because I've been single most of my life.
So it's a choice?
In some ways, yeah.
Mm.
It takes a lot of work to find someone, so I'm not really looking that hard.
It's not really too hard for me to find people. I just get a really good pair of binoculars.
Yeah. What do you do when you find them?
I don't know. I say the dumbest thing I can think of. And it usually works because they think I'm at least, being honest. I don't know. One of my favorite strategies for trying to pick up girls, I just go up to her, say the dumbest thing I can think of. She usually blows me off. Then I just move on to a girl like right next to her and do it again. Usually then the first one, she feels, oh, well, I'm not special. Oh. And now she wants what she can't have, and then...
Okay.
Then I've created something completely else.
All right. Well, I hope... Is that working?
I don't know.
I think you would know if it's working or not.
I don't know. It's entertaining at the very least.
Yeah.
I don't know. My ex-girlfriend, I haven't talked to her in a few years, but I still follow her on Instagram. She just shaved her head the other day. I wonder if she misses me.
Thinking of the military. Yeah.
That's weird. It's weird. She speaks Spanish. She can't really speak English very well.
Huh.
So we never got into a fight.
Yeah.
Didn't really know what she was saying anyway.
Makes sense.
I don't know. I've only dated chicks older than me. Well,
Yeah.
women, I should say.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny because being around some true about me. I think I'm one of the younger comics, being 23 in a week. I like to hang around people who are older with me because I kind of like to think, oh, I would kill myself if I was in your position at your age, and that kind of makes me go, oh, I want to be better.
Right.
That's how I quit smoking.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
You should teach that trick to everybody.
Well, yeah. Now I just smoke cigars and stuff. But no. I just kind of think to myself, right? Like when it comes to judging and competitions, it's like, where do I want to be when I'm here? Of course, goal setting is hard when the economy's bad. I'm like, come on. It's like some people that go, I just want to buy an orange. It's like, I don't know. Do I seem like a bad person, Aaron?
No, I wouldn't have any bad people on this podcast.
Oh, that's good.
You're pulling it off well. You're not coming off as bad.
Okay, that's good.
Yes.
So the charade's working.
It's true. So how do people find you on the internet?
I use Instagram exclusively at the moment, and it's just Lukas Fox comedy. Lucas is spelled with a K because I like being special.
Hell yeah. Cool.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe making the comedy with a K next, and then
You better hurry up and change it.
yeah, and then maybe I'll
change it.
Then maybe I'll change it to Lukas Fox with a K too. I don't know. I just.
Why, you want 3 Ks in your name? Is that what it is?
Yeah, a lot of potassium. I got in trouble at work because we were talking about Matthew McConaughey movies, and I said I thought Dallas Buyers Club was funny.
Oh my.
Yeah, that's the one where he gets AIDS.
Yeah. I'm sure some people die in that movie, right?
I don't remember. I never watched it.
I don't think I watched it either. I was like, I don't need no more sad things in my life.
I don't know. Everything that's sad is really funny, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, like name one sad thing. Not personal, just a sad thing in general.
Oh, I don't know. People dying in a horrible fire. All you did was laugh. You didn't make it funny.
Well, so when I was 3 years old, my house burnt down.
Ah,
And that was about the same time that Hurricane Katrina was happening.
wow. Related?
Nah.
No.
But on the other hand, I don't know.
Butterfly effect, right?
I don't know. My dad didn't think it was funny. His house burnt down.
I can see why. So why did it burn down?
I don't know. It was either a cigarette or the oven or something like that. I don't know.
So I guess you were 3, so you weren't part of the investigation.
Yeah, I've been part of a lot of investigations.
Well, that's good to know. Detective.
Yeah. You know, if I was on dialysis, you could call me, like, Detective Pikachu, because I'd be, like, yellow. Shit.
Yeah, makes sense.
I don't know. What's your favorite movie, Aaron?
For a long time it was Dune. I don't even know why. Just gravitated towards that movie.
So,
I like the book.
So a long time, so, like, 3 years or less.
3 years or more. There's a long time there was only one Dune movie out.
Oh, you're talking
Back
about the
in
one from the 80s?
Yeah. Even though it had stuff that was different from the book, I like the stuff that they added. You know, that was just me. Yeah. How about you? What's your favorite movie?
I think The Nice Guys is a pretty good one. As Ryan Gosling, Russell Crowe in it. They play private investigators in the 70s. That's a good one. Although, I think if I were to kind of go into categories a little bit, when it comes to comedies, I think one of my favorite has to be Big Daddy. You know, the one with Adam Sandler there. Funny thing from that.
I've seen that one. What's it about?
So it came out in 1999. The premise is Adam Sandler's character. He's this 30-year-old guy who kind of just this lazy slob. He went to high school, went to like law school, graduated, but then he just became like a loser.
Oh.
He went on. He won this settlement, and he just lived off the money. He just lost all his aspirations. One day, this kid, played by the Sprouse brothers, because they were young at the time, just shows up on his doorstep, and then he kind of decides he wants to be like a dad, and he kind of becomes a better person by the end of the movie.
Oh.
So there's a scene in the movie where he takes the kid to class, or he's visiting the classroom to kind of see how he's doing in school, and the kid starts pissing in a potted plant in the classroom. I don't know if I saw that movie when I was really young, and I was just thinking about it, because when I was in first grade, I did the same thing.
Jesus. Huh. That's interesting.
Yeah, I peed in a lot of weird places now that I think about it.
Oh, okay.
I need to be judged less the homeless, because
Sure.
I don't know. You ever drank a lot and you just had to go where you were?
Yep, I definitely think so. I
Oh,
think the most memorable was we were in a limo going to Tijuana, and we pulled over, and just it was every guy in the limo just lined up pissing outside. It was kind of memorable.
I think I was in a residential neighborhood, and I was trying to get my friend's house. We're coming home from the bar, and I just couldn't wait. And I didn't want people to see me. I don't want to have a blue dot on my house forever because I had to take a leak.
Sure.
So I'm going between cars, and I'm I can't do this. I'm just going to have to piss myself.
Wow.
And then my friend's dude, fucking just pee, whatever. So I end up getting in a push-up position and pulling my pants down a little bit. So I peed on, but what's funny is it started swinging up like this, so I kind of got myself in the chin too.
Oh my god.
And I've done that to other people, but doing it to myself was real rough,
What do you mean you've done that to other people?
Next question, Aaron.
Okay, well, this has been the podcast. That was a good length, right? Like, or you want?
That's
to
what
keep
she said.
Exactly. Yes, even though it was a good length, she wanted you to keep going. I know how that is.
Yeah, it's kind of shaped like a swan. If you like broke its neck, it's weird.
Right. I get it. Yes. So we're gonna wrap it up and then do a promo video. Are you ready?
Oh, hell yeah, man.
Hell yeah. All right, this has been Comedy or Worse. Say bye.
Check you later.